Morning, everyone. My name is Karen Hyde. I'm your presiding member for this meeting of the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel for Thursday, the 11th of December. I declare the meeting open at 9:33 a.m. In doing so, I acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia. Pay respects to elders past and present and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. Please just check before proceeding that the officers from the city can hear us okay, and also if Mr. O'Rourke, the presenter online, can hear us okay.
Yes, Stephen Laming from the town of Cambridge, I can hear you well.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can hear you fine, thank you.
Very good, thank you for that confirmation. The meeting will therefore be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2025 and DAP Regulations 2011. The meeting's being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website, and panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'll now introduce the panel members. Myself, Karen Hyde, as presiding member. To my left, Francesca Lafante, Deputy Presiding Member. Further to my left, John Symes, Specialist Member. And further to my left, Deputy Mayor Ben Mays and Councillor Kate Barlow from the town of Cambridge. Item 2, we have no apologies. Item 3, noting of minutes. Minutes of previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Now proceed to part B of the meeting for the town of Cambridge. First, I'd like to check that through declaration of due consideration, panel members have considered all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information. Could I see a show of hands, please? Thank you. All given due consideration. Next, I turn to disclosures of interest. We've received an impartiality interest from Councillor Kate Barlow associated with her duties as a local government elected member. Are there any other panel members who wish to make a declaration? Deputy Mayor Mays.
I'd like to declare an impartiality interest in that I've been contacted by neighbouring landowners regarding this application.
Thank you. And I would note that in accordance with the DAP Code of Conduct and under section 2.12, members have acknowledged that they are not bound by any previous decisions, resolution of council, or in relation to their duties as an elected member, and undertake to exercise independent judgment in relation to the matters before them. And having considered this and determined them, there are no impartiality interests that prevent the councillors from participating or voting in relation to this DAP application at this meeting. Any other members wish to make a disclosure? Thank you. No members of the panel attended SAT mediation on this matter. We therefore go through the rest of the agenda. We've no Form 1 or Form 2 applications. We are today meeting to consider a Section 31 SAT reconsideration for lot 800, 29 to 33 North Street, West Leederville, for 3-storey childcare premises and associated office. This is a Form 2. We do have 5 presenters on this item. First, we have Mr. Tom O'Rourke, who is online. We'll just get you up on screen, Mr. O'Rourke. We have received your documentation and read that. Thank you. And you have 3 minutes to make your presentation. So I'd recommend that you draw our attention to the key points that you would like to make in relation to this particular Form 2 application. Thank you. When you're ready.
Thank you, presiding member, and thank you to the panel for giving me the opportunity to speak. Firstly, I'll address 4 key issues relating to the proposed alterations. First, the deletion of the approved acoustic report and alteration to condition 9, the failure of the RAR to assess the alterations in their proper context. 3, the concerns relating to the garage door and stairwell treatments, and 4, the proposed alteration to the shade sail coverage. Number 1, the deletion of the approved acoustic report. This is the first and most significant concern in the proposal to delete the approved acoustic report from condition 9. This report, as endorsed by the DAP, identifies the boundary of adjoining residential properties as the amenity assessment location for mechanical service noise. It formed a material part of the original approval, was presented to the community and embedded as a condition because it was fundamental to ensuring acceptable amenity outcomes from the development. Importantly, noise amenity is broader than compliance with the noise regulations. This change substantially alters the noise environment and amenity impact of the development, and therefore cannot be considered under a Form 2 or Section 31 amendment application. I respectfully request refusal of the deletion of the approved acoustic report or any alteration to condition 9. I support the inclusion of a new noise management plan as a separate condition. Item 2, requirement to consider alterations holistically. Planning case law makes clear that amendments must be assessed holistically, not in isolation. The RAR instead assesses noise, visual amenity, and policy departures effectively in a sterile vacuum. This development already breaches the noise regulations, is subject to compliance action, and varies significantly from many requirements of local planning policies, in particular Local Planning Policy 3.6, which relates specifically to childcare centres. The RAR also omits reference to any environmental emissions such as car park exhaust noise, light spill, and venting of diesel fumes, issues subject to compliance action. Excluding these factors removes essential context from the assessment. Accordingly, I request refusal of the alterations to the garage door for 3 reasons. Number 1, unattenuated car parking area noise exceeds the regulatory limits at residential boundaries. 2, a perforated door allows unacceptable light spill. And 3, this departure introduces a new departure from Local Planning Policy 3.6 by exposing significant commercial services to views from residential properties. Number 3, the stairwell treatment. This recommendation to retain exposed concrete to the stairwell ignores its visual prominence to adjoining homes. I respectfully request that all exposed sides of the stairwell be painted and be finished in painted render. Number 4, shade sail coverage. The original approval granted significant setback concessions on the basis that the shade sails would be open style and be interspaced with on-structure landscaping, minimising their visual bulk and preserving the intent of the rear setback. The new proposal abandons the open style pattern while still benefiting from substantial encroachment into the rear setback area. This represents a material change to both bulk and impact of the development as perceived from adjoining residential properties. Granting a developer considerable setback concessions based on mitigation measures, then later approving the removal of that mitigation sets a dangerous precedent. It undermines confidence in the approval process and offends against orderly and proper planning. For these reasons, the alterations to the shade sail should be refused. In summary, the proposed alterations materially worsen noise and visual amenity impacts, remove protections fundamental to the original approval, and introduce an unacceptable precedent relating to setback concessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just on time there. Thank you. Now, are there any questions of Mr. O'Rourke from members of the panel? No. Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke, at this point, but please stay online. You're very welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting. Next, we have, I think you want to run through everything together. Next, we have Peter Simpson from PTS Town Planning in support of the application. He is in person. Imran Khan from ELAB in support of the application online. Kevin Chu, Giorgio Developments in support of the application in person. And Andrew Baranowski from Plan E in support of the application online. And I note that you also have John Smulders from Giorgio in person here for questions later. So, Peter, I leave it up to you. You're going to kick off.
I am, yes.
You've each been awarded 3 minutes. I'd like you each to stick to your 3 minutes. And I'll just remind you at those 3-minute intervals where you're up to.
Yeah, so the way I propose to do it is do some introduction to the conditions, get the relevant consultant to speak, and then come back to the next condition.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity. This is a Section 31 reconsideration. We support the recommendation to approve. We don't support the majority of the amended or new conditions. This has gone through a long process, and since the last DAP meeting, there's been significant changes. You'll probably see from the landscaping, added in total about 16 additional trees to the site. It's probably one of the most landscaped childcare centres I've come across. We've addressed the vertical slats and the painting of the rear stairs. All of these matters have been supported by the design review panel. In terms of the roller door, we've also got an independent. We changed our acoustic consultant to get an independent review, and Imran will talk to that shortly. As I said, we have significant concerns with the conditions. In relation to condition 9, before I let Imran speak, in actual fact, we agree with the submitter. We think that condition 9 should be retained, but slightly amended to remove the staff car parking roller door, and then generally a condition similar to what the town does, but specifically to the staff parking area, because that's the matter before the JDAP. If we could put Imran on, Imran would like to present.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I may share a screen, it'll help me with my presentation. I don't know if everyone can see the screen just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Just check, Mr. O'Rourke, you can see a shared screen.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Imran.
Thank you. Thanks, presiding members and panel members. I've created a 2-page kind of presentation to help talk about the key points about the acoustic assessment. The initial section there is about my experience and qualifications for the members to read. In terms of the assessment, what we've done is we've actually done on-site measurements, right? We've taken actual measurements of the car park, be it car stackers or roller doors, to get our kind of to make our calculations more precise and accurate. So ideally, you would actually do it at the complainant's property, but the Cambridge Street being such a busy road, it's extremely difficult to isolate the noise from typical ambient noise and then concentrate on the source noise. So in situations like that, an acoustic engineer goes in close proximity to where the sound is being generated. It's called as near field measurements. We do measurements in near field and then calculate the sound power of each of those sources and then predict the noise impacts to the receivers. Multiple receivers from those sources. So in summary, that's the methodology we've kind of adapted, and the reasons for that is because of quite loud ambient noise levels coming from Cambridge Street, but also local traffic along Spether Lane. So based on that assessment, we did do 3D modeling. In summary, the roller door noise emissions were found to be compliant at all times of the day, both nighttime and daytime. And in terms of car stackers, daytime noise emissions were found to be compliant and achieves compliance, which is from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. There's a short window in the morning where the staff can arrive. That's 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. is technically considered nighttime as per the noise regulations. Our recommendations to maintain compliance was to use the farthest kind of lanes from the nearing kind of residents to maintain compliance. That's only between 6:30 and 7 a.m. Just to put in perspective, the distance from these kind of bays to the receivers is more than around 38-40 meters. So the noise has to kind of travel from the car stackers when they get used through the car park and through the roller door across the laneway into the residence kind of boundary. So our predictions can indicate these are all compliant, provided these 8 bays which have been marked up on the drawing are used between 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m.
So you're at your 3 minutes. Is that you finished, Imran?
That's it, yes.
Okay, back to you, Peter.
We're also seeking to delete condition 18. I'll hand over to Kevin Chu to talk about the shade.
Thank you.
So just on condition 18, the town's recommended a shade analysis or assessment, and under the education and care services regulations, there is no quantitative approach on assessing shade. It's basically done on a case basis based on materials of the building, what's reflecting off different materials on the building itself, and which orientation the balconies are sitting as well. So because the western balcony receives most of the sun throughout the day and throughout the afternoon, the ability to do a shade analysis and then present that to a regulatory approval body won't be recognised. They effectively have to come onto site, look at the premises and determine based on direct UV, indirect UV, and heat that's accumulated over direct sun exposure. And then they determine whether or not adequate shade has been provided for the centre. So that's one aspect of why we believe the condition should be deleted. And then the other reason is the DRP has also gone through this with us in great detail, and in conjunction with the landscape methodology that we're proposing, the DRP have agreed the extent and the method of installation of the shade sails is acceptable, and they've also recognised that the landscaping will further soften the shade sails. Thank you.
Evan.
Thank you.
We're also seeking to have condition 19 deleted. This relates to the ground level activation plan. You'll see from the photos, the design review panel responses. This is a highly glazed ground level. So we're not really sure about what that actual condition would achieve or do anything to improve what's occurring at ground level. In relation to condition 20, we are seeking to amend condition 17, which is the original approval, to respond to the landscaping and also to create a new 20 delete 20. And I'll hand over to Andrew Baranowski to talk about the landscaping.
Great, thanks, Peter, and thank you for the opportunity. Sorry,
Andrew,
Karen. No worries.
Peter, you're just to reiterate, deleting 20 and amending 17 of the original.
Yes, sorry.
That's what Andrew's going to speak to. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Presiding Member, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Look, my task is to I've reviewed condition 20, where the town proposes a green wall, an additional green wall trellis system for the first floor western elevation, adjoining to the drying court, and their suggestion was to include trellis and wire-based structure, species that provide rapid vertical establishment, additional irrigation and maintenance details, and a minimum of a 2-year establishment program. I guess, in my opinion, this requirement is far in excess what would typically be required for a rear laneway. And in fact, I think with additional wiring and other elements, I think it would just create visual clutter and be detrimental to that particular western elevation. There's quite a lot happening in that laneway already. I think any additional structure is going to really impact on that elevation. Further, the proposed amended soft landscape treatment already proposed for this elevation that we presented to the town's DRP back in August and was subsequently was adopted by and supported by the DRP. I believe that the preferred outcome would be has already been addressed, and condition 20 really is no longer necessary. We have already proposed additional wires. We have already proposed additional wires along that elevation. And we've also proposed additional kilometre trees, which I think is going to be the best possible outcome for this particular elevation. And in time, I think we'll achieve the best possible outcome. The on-structure planting will be in self-watering pots. Any additional planting provided will be irrigated. So again, that gives it the best possible chance of survival. And currently there's a maintenance contractor that's been employed by the operator. And obviously that additional planting and works will be included as part of his works. Therefore, I urge the DAP committee to dismiss this condition and really let the operator and the client get on with the work as we're approaching the ideal growing season. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Back to you, Peter. You've just got like a minute or so to wrap up.
That's perfect. I've only got one more condition that we're seeking to have deleted, which is condition 21. Obviously, the original approval included condition 6, which related to materials and finishes. We're concerned by the wording of this. Obviously, buildings have a right to weather and sort of get a little bit more character when they do. Obviously, the landowner is going to keep the building in good condition, given that they've spent a lot of money building it and maintaining it, and we don't see the need for this condition. So that's the basis of our submissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping to time. I'll open for panel members now to ask yourself, any of the other presenters on your team, or Mr. Smoulder's questions now. Refer to our elected members first. Deputy Mayor Mays, did you have questions?
Just a general question in relation to the conditions. Is it a cost factor in terms of, I can see obviously if these were maintained in the approval, that there would be significant cost in following through with them. So is that the primary reason for the requested removal?
No, it's not probably a reason at all. Condition 9 is really about making sure that the DAP is dealing with the matter at hand, which is roller door. And as per the submitter, it was about making sure that the existing condition remained, because that deals with things like mechanical plant, waste management, and all those other range of acoustic issues. Condition 18, in terms of the shade, we've obviously gone through a fairly big process of the design review panel. Kevin's spoken about it. We don't see what it will achieve in terms of going through a shade analysis. It is a cost, but what's the end result? The end result is actually we're going to remove the shade sails and put in a solid roof. You know, we don't know what that end result is, so we don't see the point of it. Condition 19 is a ground level activation. We could do that, but again, we don't know what the outcome is. It's a highly glazed ground level. The design review panel said the ground level is great. It's got lots of windows, so we're not sure what that would actually achieve. Condition 17 and landscaping obviously is a cost issue in terms of the landowner is going to spend a significant amount more money on landscaping, and you'll see by the number of plants we've added to the process. So they've agreed to that. The change to the condition is really just about tidying it up and making sure it's consistent with the original approval. And then condition 21 is we don't really see a need for it because there's an existing condition and the landowner is going to keep it in good repair. We don't see a need to actually tell us why. So that's the basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow, did you have questions? No. Okay, Mr. Syme.
I think we went through this last time, but can you just tell us why the roller door is perforated and not solid as per the plans?
Yeah, so the perforation of the roller door is for mechanical ventilation reasons. So the way the mechanical engineers designed the ventilation car park requires a certain amount of fresh air coming in, and also, well, the fresh air coming in allows the exhaust fans to then push out any CO, carbon monoxide, within the car park. So there is a purge cycle once a day, I believe it is. And if the carbon monoxide levels reach a certain level, then the fans will also kick in to purge the car park out. So it's from a mechanical design that wasn't was part of the detailed design post the DA. So it wasn't something that was considered at the time until more detail went into designing the building.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
So with that COT, would that then penetrate up through the building or not?
No, it just pushes out of the car park along Northwood Street and Pethler.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make one more point to that? If the car park door was solid, what would we have to do?
That's a good question.
I'll answer. If the car park door was solid, we'd obviously then have to put in additional mechanical equipment and potentially pushing that out. Same outcome would be achieved, but we'd be adding additional noise and mechanical extraction to the laneway to the street.
Mr. Syme, anything further? Member Lafanti?
Yes, a couple of questions. Thank you very much. My first question was about the shade sails. I'm interested in understanding the information. The documents talk about the need for shade sails based on requirements regarding childcare. Were these information known before the development occurred, which the report appears to indicate those were the same requirements? And I'm trying to understand what happened in the intervening period as to essentially, I suppose my simple question is, why has the issue come about now and wasn't here at the time of the design? Has the legislation changed that you're referring to? I suppose I'm really trying to understand that very question. Why is it an issue now?
I'll answer that question. So I don't believe legislation has changed, but I think each childcare operator has their own specific sun protection policy. So depending on how they run their centres, typically most operators have blanket policies across all their centres. And the way I think the original proposal had the shade, so there's three categories of what shade is acceptable as, which is mature trees, fixed roof, or shade sails. So the previous approach, which was a hit and miss approach with smaller shade sails and vines to create shade, they would only determine the shade sail component or fixed roofing as shade, whereas the vine covering the proposed pergolas providing partial shade wouldn't be classified as shade under their regulatory assessment process. So whilst I think the question's valid, is if the regulations hadn't changed, why didn't it get factored in at the beginning? I can only think that due to the sun protection policy of the operator, that's what's determined the additional shade requirements.
My next question is regarding landscaping, and I note that the landscaping, in terms of amendment being sought, there are requests for variations to the proposed conditions that are listed here in the agenda with us. I would like to get some clarity around the growing period, which indicates could take up to 5 years for those plants to get to a satisfactory level. So my question is, what is actually the mechanism during the intervening period? That's a pretty long time, 5 years, for it to be effective. So what are you saying as an applicant team that is the intervening mechanisms to, while the landscape is growing? What are you saying? Essentially, it's just going to be nothing until it grows? Are you saying you're adding anything different? What are the actions that are actually occurring? Because I say it's a long period. 5 years is actually quite long.
If I could answer that, please. I guess from a landscape point of view, yes, it's all about time and maintenance and water and fertilizer, of course. But in this instance, part of the additional work that was proposed was to put in columnar trees as part of the secondary kind of approved DA that we presented to the DRP. And the idea would be that those trees would go in at about 3.5, 4 meters in height from day one. So in other words, so we're using those as a sort of an interim I guess, step to achieve that softening of that western elevation whilst the vines do their thing over the 5-year period. So because the use of those trees means that, one, we have the time frame is reduced because we have visual impact immediately, and then two, the trees would basically grow a lot quicker. So within my estimation would be more like the three-year kind of growing seasons would achieve probably 6 or 7 meters in height, perhaps even more, because of the nature of those columnar trees that we're proposing.
And are you proposing any interim measures during the intervening period while it's growing?
Not at this stage, no. And personally, I don't think it's necessary. I think with the additional work that's already been proposed and agreed and discussed and approved and supported by the DRP, I believe that that both in a short term and a long term, kind of landscape treatment will get the outcome that is required.
The other point I just wanted to make, I don't think it's unreasonable, and in my experience with just about every other development application for landscaping, you put landscaping in and it grows. There's not really a planning expectation that at doing it, you'll be putting in mature trees.
No, but there is a planning expectation about the rationale for the landscaping in terms of either visual amenity or addressing impacts
Yes.
on joining property. So I acknowledge that there is a difference in terms of the landscaping, but there is a purpose for that landscaping. And I suppose from my perspective, I'm trying to understand achieving the purpose within a reasonable time frame, which is the rationale for the landscaping. So that's why I was trying to seek clarification on, I haven't seen a scenario on the DAP proposals where you've indicated the time frame will take up to 5 years to be effective. That's not what I've seen in terms of the landscaping.
Yes, no.
Introduction of mature planting, other elements in order to address growing periods.
Yeah, so obviously in most applications you see a landscape plan and they are grown as, you know, immature planting, and it allows it to grow over time. The reason we did the 5 years was to show, and bearing in mind that all of those trees that we're proposing at the ground level are new trees. Under the approved landscape plan, that's just ground cover. So none of that existed before we went through this process and added whatever 16 new trees to the whole site. The intent of that was to show, all right, this is the trees we're going to plant. This is the trees this is what it looked like at day one. And the design review panel was interested to see, well, what does that mean over a period to where they get to roughly mature? What does that do to the facade? So the intent of the 5 years was to show that.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes.
Specifically, Andrew, there's in your landscape plan, there's 2 illustrations which show day 1 and year 5 illustrations.
Yes.
Is that the stuff is that what you're referring to?
Correct, John, yes. Yeah, so essentially at day 1, the trees will be about 4 metres high, reaching up and covering up to the first level. And then year 5, obviously they'll be up to the second story. And then beyond, with that particular species, the Pyrus javelins, they'll get up to at least sort of 9 or so metres in time. And the good thing about it is we're planting them in the ground. So it means they're not in planters, which means they've got, you know, and they're fully irrigated. There's a strong commitment from the operator to maintain. So, you know, as I say, we think that's the best possible outcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Member Lafanti.
I've got a question regarding your condition 9 changes. And you talk about a timeframe of 60 days. I'm interested about understanding the noise management plan that relates to staff behaviour. Can you clarify? I'm not sure who in the team can clarify. What does that entail? It seems that I don't have sort of the detailed material that entails. Are we saying that there's going to be a limit on how many staff can park in there, where they can park, and what are the controls? We've heard from the neighbour essentially indicating concerns about the interface between this site and the neighbouring site. So what is currently happening and what is going to be different, and why you need 60 days to complete the plan?
So 60 days is really just given that it's now the 11th of December. And so realistically, to be honest, nothing's happening for the next month until 15th of January because everybody goes on leave and we need to work through that. So realistically, 60 days is just saying, it's just recognising the time of year we're in at the moment.
So in terms of working through, I suppose what I'm trying to get at is your solution has been perforated roller door and your creative management plan. And I'm trying to understand if you actually know what's going to be in that management plan and whether or not fundamentally it's going to work in the context of perforated roller door, which I'm assuming you have already done some evaluation on it, because I'm assuming that the proposal you put forward, you have a management solution that complements the request that you're asking of us today.
Yes, we do, yeah. So the Imran's actually prepared another report for us. So one is to deal with this particular matter before you now, and then the other one is based on user behaviour or building behaviour, which is where he's done his assessment and in his opinion has identified 8 of the stacker bays that can comply in the nighttime criteria between 6:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. And as part of the management plan, if the DAP agrees with the that solution is that would be enshrined into the operator's operating procedures. So the staff, when they arrive between the hours of 6:30 and 7, are only to parking in those last 8 bays closest to the building and furthest away from the neighbouring property. So it's the other things that are in there talk to other operational items of the building that are currently in discussion with the town with regards to compliance. So there is work that has already been done, but that work with our consultant needs to be discussed, and well, the operator's actually applying those items already in their operation, but it's formalised in the document and submitting that document to the town. That's going to take the time. So in terms of what needs to be done, we've asked the operator under our lease to do those things to minimise noise as much as possible, and now it's just a matter of formalising the document, submitting it to the town, making sure the town's happy with it, and then the town has on record how the operator is going to be running the building moving forward.
So the other things, so that was reason for our removal of, in that condition, to prohibit, I can't say that word, sorry, I've had a tough week this week, of use of the stackers before 7 a.m. That's not our view. Our view is we can use the stackers, but only the ones closest, furthest away inside the thing, inside the car park. The other thing that would be included is at the moment, only 2 or 3 staff arrive before 7 a.m. That was confirmed by the town's independent acoustic. And so there'll probably be management measures on a number of staff that can arrive before that period, before 7 a.m. So it's those sort of matters that we would pick up in that management plan.
If I can just make one final statement in regard to that. And in terms of a management plan that relies on human behaviour and relies on which is probably what you were getting at, remember, on human behaviour, I think it's important to remember this is a childcare centre. It is a heavily regulated industry. It is an industry that survives on process and procedure. And in terms of implementing procedure for staff, whereby before this hour you do this, after this hour you do that, and bearing in mind also this is an operator of 45 years experience in childcare in Western Australia, operating I think 6 or 7 centres in the metropolitan area. They're a registered training provider. This is not some mum and dad operation where we're kind of hoping that someone will do the right thing before 7 o'clock, and if they don't, well, sorry, we've tried. We're more than confident in our operators' ability to implement and manage a management plan and a staff behavioural management plan that meets the objectives of those acoustic amelioration measures.
So on that point,
Yes,
given your comments, thank you for those. What's the issue about, or is there an issue with no stackers being used before 7 and those 2 or 3 staff parking somewhere else and then having no access in that car parking area pre-7 a.m? What I'm trying to sort of, I'm considering the concerns that have been raised in relation to the impact on the neighbouring property and the comments regarding the noise information we have in the report and the documentation. If we're only talking about potentially 2 or 3, and these operators have been around for a long time, run a number of complexes, are very familiar with management of the controls, could they park as part of the management somewhere else and just not use those bays pre-7, which goes to point B that you've asked to be removed? What would be the impact of that?
So the parking on the stackers, so the way the stacker works is you park on a pallet. And then what the town's peer review acoustic report says, if the pallet is raised or the stacker is raised, they're of the view that it doesn't comply. So I think parking on the stacker itself isn't the issue. So staff should still be able to park on the stacker bay. It's just the raising of the bay. So if they didn't use the stacker itself, so they just simply parked on it, that should be okay.
So what do you say point B is doing then, given your comment you've just said about drive in, park on the stacker, but not actually operate the mechanism to lift the stacker, essentially get another vehicle in? What do you say, any one of you really, on the request that you've had in point B to be changed? Talked about noise mitigation, operating protocols, and prohibition of stacker use before.
So I think so the town's acoustic advice says that they shouldn't use stackers before 7. Our acoustic advice based on the measurements undertaken, is that it is appropriate to use the stackers the first 4 or 8 in the car park, but not the 4 or 8 closest to the roller door. So staff coming in would then be directed to say, if you're going to use the stacker, you have to use the ones furthest away.
Yes, didn't quite answer my question. The response earlier was they'll park in the stacker, they won't use the lift mechanism.
They will be able to manage that. Parking off-site will be problematic because of the staff to child ratios. If they have to move their car, for example, they'll be off premises. I mean, even coming downstairs to raise the car is going to be problematic because they have to be on premises, which is in the licensed area. So what would end up happening is if the prohibition of using car stackers is a condition, then someone coming in to the car park, if every other car bay is used and there's 2 or 3 bays that haven't been raised, someone would simply drive in, raise that car, and then park under the car. That's an operational item that the operator will have to deal with.
I don't have any further questions at this juncture.
Right, thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor Mays.
Thank you. So just in relation to 7 a.m, how many staff could park in that car park utilising non-stacker bays and stacker bays without raising the stacker? So how many staff could actually park without actually having to operate the stacker, but parking onto it?
I think it's 18.
18.
They're all stacker base.
Yeah,
There are
all
no
stackers. So
staff car park.
So they would have 18 drive-ins before a stacker would have.
Would need to be
So
on.
there's 18 on the bottom, 18 on the top.
Okay, and that should be more than sufficient in terms of the operation of the centre.
But the operation of the centre is 2 or 3 staff arrive before 7.
3-7.
So not all the staff drive as well. So the tenant's chosen this location because of the West Leederville train station and also the Leederville train station. So there's actually a lot of staff that take public transport and walk. It's just more the, I suppose, managerial staff that come in earlier to open the centre that drive in, which is why the advice to us is 2 to 3 people early in the morning.
So your argument, may follow up, your argument would be those 2 or 3 people will come in and park in one of the far bays and not operate on with the stacker as it currently is, not operating, and that would all occur before.
Well, the advice we've received from the acoustic consultant is the use of the first 8 stackers complies with the noise regulations.
Oh, okay.
So that's what they're saying.
Operational stackers.
Yes.
As operational
Yeah.
Yes.
So I suspect the staff will come in, park in there, then put the stacker up or down to enable staff after 7 o'clock to use the base.
Further questions, Deputy Mayor
In
Mays?
relation to the perforated door, if that was a solid door, you made reference to the need for potential additional mechanical ventilation if there was a solid door in place. Have you done any investigation or modelling as to, I guess, the noise emission from a potential extension of the so you can't say that if the perforated door was if the solid door was in place, you don't know if the mechanical ventilation system would emit less noise than.
I think that just the point we need to make is after 7, in the normal operations, it fully complies perforated door, solid door. So after 7 a.m, there's no issue whether the door is solid. It's only before 7 that there's a disagreement between the 2 acoustic consultants, and that solely related to the operation of those stackers. We say the stackers at the end can be used, and they say stackers shouldn't be used at all. So the actual perforated door versus solid door,
They're both compliant.
There's no
The perforated door complies, I suppose. Yeah.
So I guess there's additional noise considerations in relation to the fire pump, is my understanding, and that can operate at any time.
that's external to the roller
It's
door.
got nothing to do with the roller.
Right, okay.
All right, I have some questions. Thank you. We can come back to other panel members at any point. That's why we stick on this condition, which is nominally called an amendment to condition 9. Now, earlier a presenter said condition 9 should stay, and I think you said yes, you agree, except that your submission to us was to edit condition 9. Now, and gone back to the March 21 approval, condition 9 talks about an acoustic report, doesn't talk about a management plan, a noise management plan. So to me, like your confirmation, they're two different things.
Yes, so the original acoustic report is maintained.
Yes.
That there was a whole range of issues.
Yes.
That acoustic report said that the roller door should be solid. Obviously, we can't meet that condition specifically because that says that, and we're at a perforated door. So then our recommendation to amend that condition was to keep the report but exclude the staff car parking area, and then do the staff car parking area through the management. Equally, an additional condition could be provided saying an acoustic report in relation to the staff parking area. It was really trying to keep condition 9 because it was important, but also reflect that the town wanted a plan in relation to staff parking. But as I said, equally, the management plan could be amended to say something more specific to another acoustic report.
So we could keep condition 9, but delete the reference, or well, I suppose acknowledge that it might exclude the perforated door. But to me, still, the noise management plan is a different document and deals with those matters that, amongst other things, Member Lafanti's raised, the behavioural aspects. So that would suggest that that might be a new condition rather than an amendment to condition 9. But I will ask the staff, the council staff, that too.
Yeah, and the reason we did that is because we're obviously specifically dealing with that matter at hand, and the original condition proposed by the town opened up all matters again. Yes. So if it opens up all matters again, we'll probably see it in another 12 months. So it was really specifically saying, this is the issue we're talking about. This is a condition that will address that specific issue, whilst the original approval maintained the intent of the original acoustic report.
Right. So if according to your suggestions, and this doesn't prejudice any further discussion that the panel may have, but if there was an amendment to condition 9 regarding the exception of the staff car parking roller door, but then there was a new condition which started the landowner must submit noise management plan, etc., with or without those things that you've suggested deletion, that might better fit the bill and avoid some level of confusion. So we maintain the acoustic report associated with the overall development. We note that there is a difference in terms of the roller door, but as a result of that, for this application, we require a management plan, which then deals with some of those other parking matters, which have given rise to concern because you have the perforated door and it's being used at the sensitive point before 7 a.m.
That's exactly, and I apologise.
No, that's all right. I might ask the city that too. Further,
I think your summary sort of summarises that.
Yeah. Further, just for Andrew Baranowski, your suggestion to amend condition 17 is actually to delete reference to reticulation, and yet I think Andrew was talking about them being reticulated and self-watered. So I just wanted some clarification around why you wanted to delete reticulation from that condition 17.
So just before I let Andrew speak, so all the ground level is reticulated. We can't reticulate on structure retrospectively, but what the landowner has implemented a landscape maintenance contractor, and they are responsible for maintaining all on the structure planning. So that includes self-watering, and it will also include watering by the maintenance contractor.
So they're not reticulated per se, they're hand watered, is that right?
Yes.
Correct. That is correct. Just all the planters on structure have got self-watering pots, and then every time the maintenance contractor comes, they basically fill them up. Yep.
and then it absorbs what it needs to absorb.
Correct. So it's via capillary, which is actually for those sorts of planters, it's the best method of irrigation.
Okay, because they take it up from the bottom rather than being
Correct, and their roots take up what they need. Yep.
Okay, thank you for that answer. The earlier presenter did talk around the concrete treatment to the stairwell, and I note that you have said condition 6 of the earlier approval is similar to condition 21, and therefore you're asking for condition 21 to be deleted. However, again, when I read condition 6, it talks about boundary wall treatment, whereas what we have in condition 21 as proposed by the staff specifically talks to the visible stairwell wall finishes. So could I have your comment on whether you acknowledge that they're slightly different and whether therefore condition 21 proposed by the city could remain?
Yeah, so
Is that to do with the new paint patch?
on the side, on the side, the concrete. So, I know, but there's two parts to it. Are you happy with that? So I think the two parts to it. We understand the submitter's comment about the side of the stair. The DRP and even the town doesn't think it's required.
Except that the town has popped a condition in related to it.
Yeah, sort of. We won't die in a ditch on it. If they want us to paint the concrete sides of the stairwell, we can do that. The condition was really related to, and our concern with the condition was that it was really related to what was adding to it in terms of the condition says, and to address any peeling, corrosion, staining for the life of development. That was more our concern. I'm not sure why it needs to say that. It could just say, you know, kept in good condition in accordance with the approved plans. I think the problem is as soon as we start adding things to conditions like that, it then means that other people can say, hang on, I'm bringing up the council, there's a slight stain on that building. And then the council officer is going to go and have to investigate it, say, yes, it's a stain, but it's a building. But, you know, we're going to have to change it. So it's really about what's reasonable.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have further questions. Other questions from panel members? No. Okay. At this point then, thank you to the presenters. We will now go to the city officers. And we've got Stephen Lamming with us from the town of Cambridge. Stephen, did you want to make any overall comments, or are you just happy to take questions at this point?
I'll make comments. Thank you, presiding member.
Yeah.
And my comments will just focus on the town's recommended conditions in response to the proposed amendments. And I'll just address the key points raised in the applicant's deputations and Mr. O'Rourke's submission. And I'll start with condition 9. The applicant's proposed approach for condition 9, in our view, simply can't work. The 2020 acoustic report was prepared before the development was operating, and it relied entirely on predictive modelling for a design that included a solid closed roller door. Obviously, the door no longer exists. Now that a perforated door has been installed, the entire 2020 predictive model is no longer valid. So keeping condition 9 tied to that report, while singling out the element that the model relies on, results in a condition that is technically incorrect, impossible to comply with, fragmented and unenforceable. Secondly, the perforated door fundamentally changes the real-world acoustic environment. We now have actual car movements, early morning arrivals, staff routines, stacker use and door closing impacts that transmit differently to what was predicted. A pre-operation model written for a different building cannot regulate the actual operational noise of the current childcare centre. That is why a current noise management plan to replace the acoustic report is essential. Unlike the 2020 model, the plan would deal with the as constructed building as it is now. the actual acoustic behaviour of the perforated door, the live operation of the childcare centre as it is currently operating, observed early morning behaviour observed by our consultant and their consultant, and enforceable mitigation and management measures. Thirdly, the applicant's proposal to split acoustic controls into two separate conditions would fragment responsibility for something that occurs as a single operating system. That approach leaves gaps and inconsistencies. The only workable solution is one consolidated noise management plan, regulating all noise sources holistically and ensuring compliance with the noise regulations. And I'll just, in response to Mr. O'Rourke's submission, he suggests retaining the original condition 9 because it required boundary assessment under the 2020 predictive model. Retaining that condition would not give him stronger protection. In our view, it would actually give no protection. This is because the 2020 report boundary requirements were based on assumptions that are no longer true. You can't assess compliance against a predicted model that never contemplated the perforated door or the actual operation of the centre. A condition based on inaccurate predictions cannot be complied with or enforced. By contrast, the town's noise management plan would require boundary-based assessment in accordance with the noise regulations in addition to the 15 metre from the dwelling point, which is also required under the noise regs. It would require real operational controls for staff and vehicle movements that represent how the centre is operating now, and ongoing monitoring of the actual noise environment, not a hypothetical one. So while the retaining condition 9 may appear stricter, the only approach that provides real enforceable protection for Mr. O'Rourke is a new and current noise management plan. And I'll turn to condition 18 regarding the shade cloth. The applicant has relied heavily on the DRP support for the continuous cloth. But I just point out, I'm sure you're all aware that the DRP is just an advisory body. Its comments inform the town's assessment, but they don't bind the town or MIDAP in this decision. But our issue is just that a shade analysis has never been provided. And because of that, there's no evidence to support that amount of shade cloth is necessary. And that's limited the town's ability to assess whether it is appropriate, and it limits the DAP's ability to form a solid conclusion that it is absolutely necessary to reach their compliance for shade. Regarding condition 19, which is about the ground floor articulation to Northwood Street, the applicant, their argument is that the glazing alone is enough, but we don't agree with this. And I'll just point out that glazing provides activation, but activation is not articulation, which is what the concrete fluted panels were proposed for. So without the concrete panels on the ground floor has lost its depth and material variation that were fundamental to the DAP's original approval. The RAR identifies that the facade now reads as a flat, uninterrupted plane, which is contrary to pedestrian scale requirements set out in SPP 7.0. Condition 19 does not dictate battens or materials. We're not saying that there needs to be a material that extends into the pedestrian or public realm. It simply requires an articulation plan introducing some sort of depth or layering within their lot boundary, consistent with good streetscape design. That could be any sort of design solution. We just have, that hasn't been proposed, and we haven't had a chance to assess anything. We just think that the applicant needs to go back and look at what they can do. Condition 20, regarding landscaping to the drying court. Condition 20, the overall landscaping package is, we agree it's significantly improved and exceeds the previous approval. At the RAR, we acknowledge this, but condition 20 deals with the specific issue of the first floor drying court. The original approved aluminium louver, that provided immediate durable screening and articulation. The applicant now relies on the proposed vines, and again, they note the DRP support, but as I said before, DRP is just advisory. We still have to make our own assessment and decision here. The evidence shows that the climbers will take up to 5 years to reach full maturity, but our opinion is that without the trellis infrastructure and established growing program, that area will remain exposed and might not achieve the intended facade softening that the louver would have achieved. So in our opinion, condition 20 is targeted and it's necessary because it will ensure that what the applicant is proposing will eventuate and achieve the outcome that they're proposing. Condition 21 that was just discussed briefly before, the applicant, they originally sought to delete condition 21. It doesn't seem that they're too worried about it now, but I'll just point out that we think it's necessary because that's in relation to the stairway walls, which is part of the Form 2 today. And that condition deals specifically with ensuring that it's kept to a high standard, maintained, and all that sort of thing, because the town often experiences this issue where certain materials fade and lose their quality over time, and then it doesn't have its intended mitigation impact. So this just gives us a chance to enforce the materials to be updated or repainted at a later date if they go into disrepair or fade away. I do just want to make some comments about Mr. O'Rourke's submission. Firstly, because he said that our RAR has assessed noise and amenity impacts in isolation. The RAR deals specifically with the impacts that arise from the Form 2 amendments that are before the panel today. I just clarify for Mr. O'Rourke that's the statutory scope of the Section 31 reconsideration. The perforated door is the amendment with acoustic implications, and the RAR assesses the impacts associated with that door. The independent peer review also addressed these same pathways. Mr. O'Rourke also refers to other issues such as exhaust noise and light spill. I'll just point out that those matters form part of the town's separate compliance investigations, which are already underway. We're already liaising with the applicant. They don't arise from the Form 2 amendments in this application, and for that reason, our view is that they can't be determined in this reconsideration. But the town, we are addressing them just through a different pathway. And I'll comment on Mr. O'Rourke's comments about planning case law. Our view is that case law is clear that Form 2 applications must assess the impacts of the amendments, not reopen the entire parent approval, unless the amendments fundamentally alter the nature of the development. In our view, in this case, the amendments relate to specific built form and operational amendments that are set out in the RAR. And just on the noise management plan, we think it is precisely what ensures that all relevant acoustic emissions, including car movements, door operation, human behaviour, any exhaust-related noise, all of that is captured in a single operational document based on the as constructed building. And I'll just point out as well that any noise non-compliance identified by the town, including from the car parking area, which Mr. O'Rourke has pointed out is other noise sources, if any of those are found to be non-compliant, our investigation will continue to address them. And if it results in any built form changes that are required to resolve those non-compliances, then it is likely they will come back to the DAP for further reconsideration. So in our view, the risk around that is lower because the applicant will always need to comply with the noise regs. And if they don't, we will all have to look at it again.
All right, thank you. I'll open for questions now. Deputy Mayor Mates, did you have questions? No. Councillor Barlow? No. Member Syme? Member Lafanti?
Thank you. Could you speak to the shade sail structure, particularly your comment about the incorporation of these to the rear has a perception of bulk. Can you speak to that particular provision in terms of the comments about the appropriateness or otherwise of that treatment?
Yeah, so I think the greatest impact from the additional shade cloth is to the rear adjoining residential property. So from the outlook from the rear of his dwelling and in the rear yard, as he looks up, what was originally approved as a hit and miss shade cloth solution, which provided some relief because you could see sky through that third floor, is now entirely shade cloth. So I know it's not a solid wall, but it is obstructing view of the sky that was part of the original approval. So in our view, that adds some perception of additional visual bulk, and that is impacting the rear neighbour the most.
And could you clarify, is the impact a view, or is the impact, in your view, from a planning perspective, other amenity impact on that neighbour? Is there overshadowing, other sorts of other impacts from that upper level, or is it the view of the sky that you're referring to?
I would say it's the perception of visual bulk is the issue.
Karen Hyde speaking. If I could just go back to your proposal for revised condition 9, and quite clearly, and we all understand here that we're dealing specifically and only with the Form 2 application. Yet I'm looking at your revised condition 9, and it starts to talk about outdoor play areas and matters that go beyond the issue of the roller door. So and the use of the noise emitted from the car park by parking prior to 7 a.m. So I just want to question you on the rationale behind making condition 9 wider in its application than just the issue generated by the perforated garage roller door.
Presiding member, generally you wouldn't deal with matters outside the Form 2 scope, but because the proposed change for the garage door relates directly to condition 9 and an acoustic report, which no longer applies anymore if we keep the perforated door. As I pointed out, in our view, we have to move away from the acoustic report into a new document that deals with the changes to the perforated door, but because removal of the acoustic report includes all the other noise emissions, that also has to be captured in the new document.
Why does it need to be captured in the new document? Why does it need to be captured in the new noise management plan? Because condition 9 related to an acoustic report, which the town has accepted, has the introduction of a perforated roller door changed the noise that's emitted from the outdoor play areas?
No.
So why are outdoor play areas referenced in 9A of your revised condition?
Because our recommendation is to remove the acoustic report, because the changes have resulted in that acoustic report no longer being enforceable as a document. And I understand what the applicant's requesting, but that would result in a fragment. We'd end up with 2 documents, and it's just not the town's preference to apply compliance and enforcement across a convoluted framework. So what we're asking for is just a singular document that makes it crystal clear for the DAP, for us and for the applicant, what their obligations are.
Does the matter of outdoor play and early morning operations and those sorts of things, they're covered by the environmental protection noise regulations of 97 anyway, that you referred to later in your commentary, are they not?
Yes, they are. What we're just asking for is that the applicant demonstrates to us with sort of, because there's different ways to achieve compliance, and I think it's dependent on how the childcare operates. So we're just asking the applicant to propose to us, based on how they're operating, their methods of achieving compliance, so that we have a clear understanding between them and us how they're achieving that compliance.
All right, thank you for that answer. Further, in relation to condition 21, and you will have heard the discussion earlier with the questions and answers to the applicant. Would the city have have any issue if condition 21, as you've proposed, remained but concluded at the end of the phrase must be maintained in good condition to the city's satisfaction, you could add to that and the remainder of that sentence be deleted. Would the city have any issue with that provision?
Fundamentally, no, because it captures all of it.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I've got any other. Oh, yes, just in terms of the applicant's requested amendments to condition 17, which took out the word reticulation. Did you manage to catch that earlier Q&A session regarding why they wanted to take out the words reticulated, that they were now hand watered and self-watering pots?
Is that condition from the original approval?
Yeah, original condition 17, the applicant had suggested some amendment to that.
If you just, sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm going to bring up the original.
Yeah. I don't think you touched on that in your commentary.
Okay, thank you. Just please give me a second.
Yeah.
And sorry, presiding member, could you just remind me, does the applicant want to remove that because they're...
Yes, certainly. The applicant's amendment to condition 17 would be to remove the words "and reticulated" after landscaping plans shall be installed. The answer that they gave to the question was because they're actually hand watered and in self-watering pots, which better suits that type of planting. And then they've added the words after within 6 months, they've added of the date of this approval, because obviously practical completion has, if you like, already happened. So they've deleted practical completion of development. So just question whether you had any issue with the suggested revisions that they were proposing.
No, fundamentally, the town doesn't. This is sort of a standard condition that goes on to DAP approvals, and I think the sentence where it says "and be thereafter maintained by the landowner," that captures, you know, watering and all that sort of thing.
Right, thank you. No further questions from me. Any other questions of Stephen Laming from panel members? Member Lafanti.
Thank you. With regard to the landscaping requirement, you refer to it in the bar and it's referred to in the conditions. Can you just talk me through the landscaping purpose? My read of the documents is it's for aesthetic. Is there an additional purpose for landscaping to the rear of the site?
Aesthetic, and also to mitigate the reduced setback to the upper floors, because that was sought and improved as part of the original DAP approval. The town's local planning policy for this area, for this precinct, requires a greater setback on the upper floors. The applicant got approval for a reduced setback, and that was on the basis of certain design elements such as the landscaping, the metal louver, the aluminium cladding, and all those sorts of things. They were used as justification for the reduced setback. So to answer your question, the landscaping serves two purposes: aesthetics and also a bulk impact mitigation measure.
Can I continue on?
Yes, please.
The landscaping plan we have proposed talks about trees in ground, a substantial increase in trees in ground to your height. What are your comments in relation to, specifically referring to ground level planting? in-ground planting, I should say. In terms of your second commentary around bulk and form, and I'm referring to in the context of the neighbouring site, and essentially as the trees grow, they'll block a level of view of the building. What do you say about the effectiveness of the in-ground planting on bulk and scale?
Yes, I think as the panel discussed earlier, it will take up to 5 years for all the planting to reach maturity. So I think the additional landscaping and particularly the large trees at maturity will provide an adequate level of bulk mitigation. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, my last question, yeah. My last question relates to the lane itself. And I'm very conscious of narrowness of lane and large trees next to narrow lanes. Can you, or has the town had any consideration or concerns in relation to the ability of substantial trees in that proximity to both building and lane, ensuring functionality of both? And I really am going to the success of putting substantial trees in what is the expectation of substantial trees in that location.
My understanding is the type of tree, the canopy is a tall, skinny tree. So I don't think there's concern of overhang into the laneway. Is that what you're referring to, member, or is it about the ability for the trees to grow in that narrow location?
It was more about the abilities of the trees to grow, both in height but also in its root structure. Obviously, to take a tree of that scale, there needs to be sufficient growing mechanism in ground. And I'm conscious of its urban environment that it sits within. I'm happy to take landscape comment as well on that.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's a very, very tight inner urban area. I'm familiar with the area, been out to the site. And the ability for the ground level landscaping to ameliorate, or the extent of amelioration of bulk.
Sure. The advice I've received is that the trees will grow in that location, but I believe this is probably better answered by a landscape expert.
Andrew, could you respond to Member Levante's?
Certainly, presiding member. Look, I guess that's why that particular tree species was selected. We've got about 1.5 meters of actual width, but there's quite a long length. And over that length, the actual volume of soil that is available for those trees, I believe is definitely sufficient for to achieve the growth. And because they're very much a columnar form, again, we don't have the issue of overhanging, those sorts of things that normally are prevalent in and become an issue within a laneway situation. So I'm confident that with the automatic irrigation system, the preparation that's already been done in that area, as well as ongoing maintenance, we will be able to achieve the sort of outcomes we're looking for.
Thank you, Member Barlow. Yes.
If I recall, on that site, there was a large tree. And if I recall with this development, I'm sure that it was one of the conditions that trees be planted in the laneway. That large tree be replaced on that development site.
I should ask Stephen to respond to that.
Apologies, member, what was the question? What was the specific question?
The specific question was about the development of that site. There was a very large tree on that site, which was removed. And if I recall, one of the conditions for the development was that trees be planted in the laneway to replace that tree.
Please just give me a sec. I didn't deal with the original RAR, but I'm reading through it to see if I can answer that question.
I can jump in there if you like as well. Yeah, that is correct, Councillor. Trees were were always proposed to be located in that laneway. And the species there was a bit of negotiation around the species. Originally, we proposed, larger trees to be, such as mangoes and avocados, to be put in, and they were obviously knocked back by the Parks and Gardens Department as being too problematic in terms of fruit. The operator then obviously came back and said, look, we've got a maintenance strategy, we'll pick the fruit, all those sorts of things. And then subsequent to that, the agreement was that citrus be planted, which they have been. So they're in and growing very well. The idea with this proposal is that then they're infilled between the citrus, because the citrus are reasonably far apart. Whereas the pyrus will achieve that kind of softening of that western elevation, which is what I believe council are looking for.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of Stephen Fleming at this point? No? Thank you very much, Stephen. We will then proceed with the agenda, and we'll take it in the order as presented in the IR. We have a responsible authority report for this Form 2, which asks us to accept it as a Form 2 and pursuant to Section 31 to vary the previous decision with a number of replaced and new conditions. So I'm seeking a mover, please, for that in the first instance. Do I have a mover? Member Lafante, thank you. Is that seconded? Member Syme, thank you. Member Lafante's move. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I have, as I've indicated, I am supportive of the proposed changes. I do, however, have some reservations about the language in a series of these conditions, and I would like to speak to those in the context of this if I can, and
Yes.
I'd like to move a number of amendments, if I may.
Yes.
And these amendments are important from my perspective because my comments align to some of the matters that are raised in the proposed amendments, as well as the discussions that I've heard today and the documentation that we've received. My amendment, First Amendment 1,
Yes.
it essentially relates to condition 9.
Would you like to describe it?
I am seeking for the amendment of condition 9 to essentially follow the commentary from the applicant. I have listened to all of the comments today.
I'll need to have a second before you speak to it. So is it exactly how the applicant has proposed your amendment to condition 9?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I have been oscillating throughout today's meeting on whether or not to make any changes to condition 9, but having listened to what everybody has indicated, as well as the concerns raised, that the key issue relates to the change to the door and the impact of the car parking area, particularly prior to 7 a.m. There also other issues that are key for me has been reiterated in today's meeting, that notwithstanding decisions that are made today, the environmental protection noise regulations 19 and 97 are required to be addressed by applicant, and there are mechanisms to deal with that, and there are obligations which can include implications on the physical operation and timeframes of the facility. This movement of mine, or this amendment of mine, I'm satisfied that based on the material we have, changing the door to perforated door, a roller door, is appropriate, that the use of the car parking area is required to have an operational and behavioural aspects contained within the noise management plan, and there is an obligation that deals with, but not included, vehicle movements, car stacker, car door closing and roller door operations. I am not proposing to include all the other elements because for me, it is important the applicant addresses those key elements of car stacking, as I've just indicated. Now, whether or not any use or movement of elements of the car stacker can occur before 7 a.m. are going to be subject to the detailed material provided in this, as well as the operator's compliance with those. I have explored in today whether or not the vehicle stackers can be moved at all, and I would assume that the city will, as part of its management, be looking at the extent to which movement occurs and the location of which parking occurs for the staff. So from my perspective, I think it is reasonable that the change to condition 9 reflects the roller door element and the associated actions that occur within the parking area. That does not alter the obligation of the applicant and the operators to ensure that any other use of the car parking area or any other activities that occur relating to the site, such as servicing, child play areas, also meet the obligations of the noise regulation, and those are time considered under the noise regulations.
Thank you, Member Lafanti. Member Simers, seconder. Would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I will. Now, I'm assuming that this must go with a new condition, which would be 20 or so, I imagine, because what we're doing with this is excluding from the acoustic report the current existing report.
We can always take a noise management plan as a further amendment.
That's right. So that's my comment. So in this we are. I think I'm foreshadowing. This is the first stage of actually 2 amendments.
I'm sorry, can I clarify? I'm actually moving 2 together.
Oh, 2 together.
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry, if I can clarify that. I'm from my perspective, I do not accept the taking out of 1 and not including it. So sorry, my condition 9 incorporates it, and I accept the point that in the applicant submission calls it point 20, but I have linked them directly together.
Okay.
I'm comfortable that they be given different condition numbers. And sorry, my comment were directly related to both of them because they have to tie together.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, and if that makes it clearer that it be condition
whatever it is,
amendment of 9 and new 20,
yeah,
or whether new 20 is a subset of amendment of 9. I don't have a particularly strong view one way or the other. It's more that they are actually tied together.
Okay. Well, let's just call it amendment to 9, and then they're tied together. So in terms of the applicant's summary, that would include that wording that they've called 20 as well as 9 as part of the same.
So
mover and second are comfortable with that.
So just to be clear, we are adding, we are keeping condition 9 as is, and adding the words "with the exception of staff parking" to the roller door, and then as moved, we are still incorporating the within 21 days, 28 days.
60 days.
That's within 60 days of the date of the approval. So for me, the key here is that the removal of the staff parking area roller door out of condition 9, it is addressed directly and appropriately by a noise management plan.
Yes.
That deals with the staff parking behaviour.
I'm just getting clear. And are we then accepting all of the deletions that the applicant is proposing?
Correct. That's Member Lafanti's
Yes.
proposal.
Yes.
So is that happy to second that?
I'm very happy to second.
All right. Okay.
And I'm happy, if I can.
Yes, please.
I'm happy to call that a separate number. It can be called
No, it fits.
I'm tying the 2 together because they're directly related from my perspective.
Sorry, member, could that just be all repeated?
Yes, so absolutely. My proposal is that condition 9 has the changes with the exception of the car parking roller door, because as indicated in the material we have and in the conversations today, it is that element of the plan that has changed on this condition. And then I'm adding, because of the concerns relating to noise, I'm adding within 60 days of the date of this approval, the landowner must submit a noise management plan to the town for approval. The noise management plan must address all operational and behavioural aspects of the car parking area that generate noise, including but not limited to vehicle movement, car stacker operation, car door closing and roller door operation.
Full stop.
And then once the plan is approved by the town, it is to be implemented for the life of development, with measures, procedures and controls always to be adhered to.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Yes.
In the town's RAR, condition 20, or the new condition 20 is proposed, which relates to the green.
Yes.
That's
So-
another issue.
I'm
you're
just confused because
No,
we're
no.
talking about amending condition 20, but
That
that
was-
No.
certainly I can help with that. Certainly the applicant suggested an amendment in their summary,
Yep.
which said amend condition 20. However, what the mover and the seconder have proposed is that both those parts summarised by the applicant form an amendment to condition 9 only, not
Yes.
forget 20
Yep.
at this
Right.
point.
Forget anything to do with condition
Understood,
20.
thank you.
This is all to do with condition 9, so that's moved and seconded.
Let's move
Mr.
on.
Syme, did you wish to continue speaking to it?
Except to say, look, I accept the arguments that have been made. We have a condition at the moment where, for various reasons, and for justifiable reasons, I think, we have the reality of a door which is an open door, a leave-it door. We have an existing acoustic report which covers a whole range of things. It is specific about a solid door that is being changed now. The effect of that change is now being addressed by a noise management plan. I think that's the appropriate way to go. I think that we come back to ultimately some rational measurements of what the noise actually is, which is what the noise management plan will achieve. And so I think that the amenity of the area is satisfactorily achieved in this one.
Thank you. Other speakers for or against the motion?
Speak against it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, my concern with this one, sorry, not mine. So the town's done a lot of work on this, obviously over a long time. And in relation to the existing condition 9, the town is asking for that to be replaced. And they're asking for it to be replaced because the acoustic report 2020 simply cannot be complied with. And in terms of calling for a noise management plan, it's calling for a holistic noise management plan. So therefore, by doing that, it needs to include all the elements that the staff have requested. I take the point around outdoor play areas and staff parent activities is potentially something that may not need to be included, but I do have concerns around the other things relating to mechanical plant and waste collection. I think they absolutely should be included in that condition because they are operational in relation to the facility 24 hours a day as opposed to the other elements. So I don't support the amendment that's been proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barlow?
No, I've got no comment.
Okay. I will speak. I speak actually in favour of these amendments for a number of reasons. I think we understand that the aspects of the previous district report have changed, specifically to do with the roller door. There are other areas which are still covered by that. I think that 60 days is quite reasonable within this time frame. Otherwise, I can see both from the applicants and the city's point of view that there would be the need for an extension of time, and that would bring the matter back to us inevitably. So we avoid that by giving sufficient flexibility of time to present the noise management plan. I'm very concerned that we go beyond our ability under a Form 2 to include much more in the way of an holistic noise management plan. I think there are already operational procedures which cover a number of these other aspects anyway, and regulations which concern a number of those matters, and indeed the environmental protection noise regulations of 97 cover matters associated with noise sensitive receivers during that nighttime period. So I believe it appropriate that the noise management plan specifically deals with those matters which have arisen because of the change of materiality of the garage door, and that is specifically to manage that area, car stacker operation, car doors closing, roller door noise operation, etc. But to go beyond that, I would feel quite uncomfortable that we're moving well beyond what we're supposed to be doing in terms of a Form 2 consideration. Member Lafanti, back to you as mover.
I have no further comments to make.
Let me put this amendment 1 to the vote in the positive. Those in favour? That's Hyde, Lafanti and Syme. Those against? That's Deputy Mayor Mays and Councillor Barlow. The motion is carried 3-2. Still with you, Member Lafanti.
Thank you. I am moving to my second amendment that I'd like to make. My second amendment relates to condition 18,
yes.
Which specifically relates to the shade structures.
Yes.
I'm comfortable. My proposal is to delete this condition, and I'll speak to that and the reasoning. Do you want me to speak to that now?
Okay. Do I have a second?
No, I'll second.
Member Syme, please speak to the motion.
Thank you. I have been through all the documentation, had a significant consideration of material that we've been given today. I do not form the same opinion of the city that it is the shade structures are so significant as to so substantially impact the bulk of the building as it faces towards the lane. From my perspective, I am very familiar with a shade structure, and there is a more lightness to it than a solid roof material. I also acknowledge the commentary around landscaping, particularly at ground level, and the view site of people at ground level looking up to the building and the impact that a tree and other associated landscaping have around building bulk and form. So from my perspective, I do not support this new condition. I do not hold the same view that this element creates such substantial bulk and scale.
Thank you. Simon, seconder.
Yes, so look, I agree with that. I think first of all, two things. I think I totally understand the operators' concern about providing sufficient shade in outdoor areas. I think that sort of overrides a lot of other considerations. I think that the visual impact of these shade sails is either neutral or barely noticeable. You've really got to, if you're on site, you've really got to make an effort to look up and see any of the shade sails at all from pretty much any angle. And I think that any bulk or perceived bulk will be very substantially mitigated by the landscaping, particularly with the new trees, which I think, even though we're talking about 5 years being a long time, is actually a very short time. And I think if we're starting with 3 metre high trees in the first instance, if we're looking on site, your eye will inevitably be drawn to that landscaping element and not to whatever may be way above you. So I think from an amenity point of view, I think this is entirely not a material aspect. So I think we can quite easily delete this.
Thank you. Other speakers for or against?
Yeah, thank you. I think to the town's point, the preference to delete this condition relied very heavily on the DRP, which is just an advisory function. It's not reflective, I guess, of the town and what the community at large would expect. Deleting this condition simply provides for the applicant to do nothing with shade at all. And I think that in relation to not just the bulk and scale element, but providing sun protection for children in what is a sensitive environment should be enforced by way of this condition. So I do not support this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
I'll speak against it too. Once again, as I just pointed out, that one of the conditions here really was with the big removal of that tree. And also in Cambridge, we're very much encouraging greening of the area, or in such things as big buildings like this having like shade protection, etc. That actually softens the area. So therefore, I'm speaking against this.
Thank you. I will speak the proposed amendment. I'm comfortable with what's required under this amendment in deleting condition 18 because the proposal by the town is that their preference was the hit and miss approach, and don't like this particular proposal because they feel that it adds to the bulk and scale. But there is regulation that requires some protection, and that's a matter outside of our remit. And certainly that would need to be provided, so the benefit to the children is there and some protection is provided under that regulation. The matter for us is whether there is any amenity impact from this proposal versus the original proposal. And I concur with the mover and the seconder that I think it's of minimal nature. I don't believe, given the materiality, it actually does add to the bulk and scale of the built form. I think it may well be seasonal as well in its use, and therefore I'm quite comfortable to accept what's being proposed on the plans rather than seeking any revision to them. Member Lafanti, back to you.
I suppose my only other comment, and I would concur with those comments that have been made in relation to separate legislation regarding some protection for children. I suppose my other comment in relation to overall bulk and scale is that I'm cognizant of the site zoning itself and the interface between the site and the adjoining sites, and that there is always going to be a level of transition difference from basically the residential area at the rear to what is on this side a mixed use zone according to the city's documentation. I got on and had a look at their scheme and their site plan and where the zoning boundaries sit, just to get a feel for the place. So from my perspective, there will be a level of difference in bulk and form because of the planning framework that sits below it.
Thank you. I'll put this amendment to the vote. Those in favour? Hyde, Lafanti and Syme. Those against? That's Deputy Mayor Mays and Councillor Barlow. The motion is carried 3-2. Back with you, Member Lafanti.
My third amendment is to delete condition 19. And again, I'll speak to that if I get a second.
Seconded, Mr. Syme. Thank you.
My views are quite simple. I essentially just disagree with the city's interpretation of this. I have been up and down that street. It connects to Railway Parade, the railway itself, the train station itself, out to Cambridge Street. It's got a complete intermix of uses with some food and beverage, etc. along railway, eclectic mix of uses along this particular section of the street. And I must say, from my perspective, ground level glass is actually is essentially what we generally push for as a street interface. So from my perspective, I agree that the upper level articulation provides some element into that street, but I am completely satisfied that ground level, whilst I note that it is changed from what we saw some years ago, I don't think it sits so inconsistently with that location.
Thank you. Member Syme, a seconder.
Yes, look, I agree with that. I can't see, this is very vague in terms of a condition and what's required. Articulation in this form could be almost anything. I don't think it will add significantly or at all to the ground floor condition. The design review panel certainly has that view, and I do agree with the design review panel in this regard. The building is as it is. It fits into the streetscape in the way that it does. I don't think it would be added to or changed, particularly with some very vague requirement for further articulation, whatever that was mean. So I think for those reasons, this new condition doesn't really belong here.
Thank you. Speakers?
Against it. Thank you. I think to the town's point, the glazing is just simply not enough. The building itself presents as a very clinical, beige looking structure from Northwood Street. And without the concrete panels on the ground floor, it has lost its depth. So I don't support the removal of this condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow.
I'll speak in support of it.
Yes.
I walk the street daily, and actually I can't see that this articulation will do anything to enhance the building, and I wondered actually why it was put in there. So I actually am supporting this, the amendment.
Thank you. I too am in support of this, and I do at this point take the design review panel's expert advice, which does suggest that further treatment might even encroach into the pedestrian zone. So on balance, I favour a simplified version in this location, noting it is a commercial use, and certainly I think the glazing, whilst not overly articulated, certainly we do get a demonstration of activation from that. So I'm happy to support the deletion of condition 19. Member Lafanti, back to you.
I have no other comments on this.
Okay, thank you. I'll put this matter to the vote. Amendment 3 to delete 19 in favour. That's 4 against. 6 remains against. The motion is carried 4 to 1. Still with you, Member Lafanti.
From this perspective, I have oscillated back and forth. I would like to delete new condition 20.
If you wish to couple amend existing condition 17.
Yes, I am comfortable with couple.
I'm happy to second that. Thank you. Please speak to that.
Thank you. I have oscillated on this one as well. You've heard a number of my comments in relation to landscaping, the timeframe of landscaping, and the effectiveness of landscaping up on the building. From the material that we've received, as well as the comments we've provided to today, it is very apparent to me that one of the more successful and significant components of the landscaping is in fact the in-ground landscaping, and the height of which those trees will create both a visual and an aesthetic relief to both the building and the neighbouring property. From my perspective, I am comfortable that overall the upper level landscaping, which is in pots, etc., as opposed to physically on planter, on building and in reticked, I'm comfortable that from this perspective, the overall condition is, from my perspective, essentially not warranted, because, as already indicated, in-ground planting is a significant impact at the rear of this site.
Thank you. I concur with you in as much as I think one of the key changes since we last saw this is a significant amount of additional planting, and well considered in terms of its design and its positioning, its species type, and the ability for it to be substantially thriving by way of the planting and watering process that is proposed. So I don't believe that we need to have additional in terms of condition 20, and I certainly think it's quite reasonable to amend condition 17 to reflect the establishment proposition put forward by the applicant. So happy to support that amendment. Other speakers, Member Syme?
Yes, look, I agree entirely. Condition 17, that's well understood, I think, and well explained. And condition 20, look, I think with the amount of very well considered new landscaping that's in there, and I must say there's ample room in the laneway in the planting area to support the sort of trees that are the sort of landscaping which is proposed. I think that in a very short space of time will do the job that's required to from an aesthetic point of view from the landscaping. I don't think any additional trellising or whatever in this location will add to anything. I think it'll probably detract from it. So I think I'd be very happy to delete 20.
Thank you. Other speakers for or against? Deputy Member?
I'll speak. I'll speak. I'm comfortable with the amendment to existing condition 17, but I will speak against the deletion of condition 20. This is a targeted and necessary condition that's been is proposed to be imposed by the town. To go ahead with this would then improve the outcome in terms of amenity and visual appeal. This particular part of Westleigh is known as the Flower District, and it is expected that it will go above and beyond perhaps what you might expect in a regular development. As I've previously mentioned, the articulation of this building is very sterile, and I think by introducing this condition, obviously it means that it has to be done, but it's not just about that. It means that it will be a far better visual outcome when it is implemented, and then eventually it grows out over time. So I don't support the removal of condition 20, but I'm happy to support the amendment of condition 17.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barlow.
I don't once again support the mention of this condition. As just stated, this is the Flower District, and we're going to have a lot of infill in that area. And so therefore, one of the strategic plans going forward is to make sure that the buildings in there with the amenity have softness about them and have trellises, etc., coming down the buildings. So therefore, I don't support the removal of this amendment.
Right, thank you. Back to you, Member Lafante.
Okay,
thank you. I will put this amendment to the vote. Those in favour? Slide Lafante and Syme. Those against? Deputy Member Mays and Councillor Barlow. Motions carried 3-2. Still with you, Member Lafante.
No other amendments at this juncture.
Okay, thank you. As seconder of the substantive motion, Member Syme, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, look, I'll just to tidy up condition 21, if I may, new condition 21.
Yes.
If I can move an amendment on that to remove the words "and free from peeling, corrosion and staining and staining," so that the condition would read all visible stairwell wall finishes, including painted surfaces and metal cladding, must be maintained in good condition for the life of the development.
The satisfaction
The satisfaction of the town, like, yes.
Seconded. Member Lafante, thank you. Want to speak to it, Member Syme?
I don't think. No, I think it's just it's a sensible condition.
Okay, Member Lafante, did you want to speak to it? No. Any other speakers for or against this? Let me put that to the vote then. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. Still with you, Member Syme.
Look, as to the substantive motion now as it is, I think this is a this is a project that we've seen a couple of times now, and I think hopefully this will put it to bed, and we don't want to see you back here again. So I think these hopefully are manageable solutions to what is obviously a bit of a moving feast, and hopefully this is it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are the speakers on the substantive motion, Deputy Mayor Mays?
I'll just speak briefly to it. I think we've made far too many concessions on this one. I'm conscious that it has been back to that a number of times, but each time I think, in relation to the setbacks, there's been concessions made. Effectively, it appears that you go ahead and ask for forgiveness. That tends to be the theme that I'm seeing in this particular instance. So no, I don't support the outcome of this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow, did you? Okay, thank you. Look, I don't. I understand, Deputy Mayor Mays, where you're coming from. It certainly seems that there were a number of potential oversights and certainly a failure of communication, I think fair to say, from a number of parties in the days when this was being constructed. I think it would ordinarily be the case, and I think I said this last time we saw this application, that there are some changes between planning approval and building permit stage and implementation, which ordinarily would be managed internally. Obviously, the town's advice recommends it comes back to us for those changes, and obviously seeking then retrospective approval for those matters. I think there have been some design changes, certainly in favour of where we've ended up now, particularly additional landscape. We've certainly had further technical advice on key matters. I think we now have in place a noise management plan, which I think needs to be done properly and approved by the town, and therefore then following implemented for the duration of this development, which hopefully will start to alleviate some of those issues which have arisen to date from some of those construction changes. I think equally, we've now got a collective view from the design review panel, where previously we had a number of independent points of view put forward. So we've got a very consolidated piece of design advice, which I respect. So on balance, yes, there have been some concessions made, but I think overall we have appropriate land use with an adequate design in a very active area of the town. So I'm quite happy to support this Form 2 application and the amendments that we have made to some of the conditions associated with it. Member Lafanti, did you wish to have a right of reply and close debate?
Thank you. From my perspective, I am comfortable with the extent of changes. I acknowledge that for the changes may appear an incremental erosion. From my perspective, however, the opportunity to consider these proposals in the context of a building within its locational context has given, for me, clarity about the extent of these changes and the impact of these changes. I thank all of the people that have provided commentary in this, both from applicant, city submitters and from panel. I am of the view that this proposal is appropriate, these changes are appropriate in the context of this site, and that mitigation action has been considered, particularly in relation to the management of noise element within the car stack area and associated with a perforated roller door, as well as landscaping, the impact of landscaping on the overall Vulcan scale as it interfaces to the rear lane and then to the residential opposite that. As I've already indicated, this street has an eclectic mix of uses and building forms, and I'm comfortable that the scale and the extent of the changes are appropriate in this context.
I'll now put the matter to the voters. Debate is closed. Those in favour, Hyde, Lafanti and Syme. Those against, Deputy Mayor Mays and Councillor Barlow. The motion is carried. Closes the primary matter of this meeting. We have no further SAT applications or Supreme Court appeals. And there being no further business today, I'd like to thank Councillors Barlow, Mays, other panel members, presenters and staff, and close the meeting at 11:30 a.m.